Japan. When you hear that name, you might think of peaceful gardens, old temples, and a culture of respect. The Japanese tea ceremony, for instance, is a beautiful tradition that showcases the country's deep appreciation for simplicity and mindfulness. Mount Fuji, with its snowy top, looks peaceful and strong. This iconic mountain has inspired countless artists and poets over the centuries, symbolizing both the beauty and resilience of Japan. But Japan has a complicated history, full of big plans, fighting, and sad times. The samurai warriors, with their strict code of honor, played a significant role in shaping the nation's past. This is the story of Japan's journey from a quiet group of islands to a big empire, and then its fall. The rise and fall of the Japanese Empire is a tale of ambition, conflict, and transformation. For a long time, Japan was mostly alone. Its geographical isolation allowed it to develop a unique culture, distinct from the rest of the world. Its people didn't know much about the rest of the world. During the Edo period, Japan's policy of sakoku, or closed country, kept foreign influences at bay. This time, called the Edo period, created a special culture, but it also caused problems later on. The isolation led to a stagnation in technological and industrial advancements. When Commodore Matthew Perry and his American ships came in 1853, Japan's quiet time ended. The arrival of Perry's black ships marked the beginning of a new era for Japan. This big event changed Japan forever. The forced opening of Japan to the West brought about significant social and political upheaval. The Western powers made Japan open up. This led to the end of the shogunate and the beginning of the Meiji Restoration. This showed that Japan's old ways weren't strong enough. The traditional samurai class and their feudal lords, the daimyo, found their power diminishing. The shogun, Japan's leader for many years, was weak. The Tokugawa shogunate, which had ruled for over 250 years, was unable to withstand the pressures of modernization. This shocked everyone and made people want change. The desire for reform and modernization led to the Meiji Restoration, a period of rapid transformation. Japan was about to become a powerful country, but this change would be difficult. The Meiji leaders embarked on an ambitious program of industrialization and modernization. Japan's journey was full of amazing things and terrible things. The nation's rapid rise to power was accompanied by military conflicts and eventual devastation during World War II. It's a story of big dreams and mistakes, strength and sadness, and how people can overcome hard times and find a new way. After the war, Japan rebuilt itself into a peaceful and prosperous nation. Today, Japan stands as a testament to resilience and innovation, a country that has learned from its past and continues to look forward with hope and determination. When Commodore Perry's big black ships arrived in 1853, it was a moment that would forever change the course of Japanese history. The sight of these imposing vessels with their dark hulls and billowing smoke was unlike anything the Japanese had ever seen before. Everyone in Japan was shocked. The arrival of these foreign ships created a sense of awe and fear among the Japanese people, who had lived in relative isolation for over 2 centuries. These modern ships, with their big guns and steam engines, showed that Japan couldn't stay alone anymore. The technological superiority of the Western powers was evident, and it was clear that Japan's isolationist policies were no longer sustainable. The shogun wasn't ready and had to agree to unfair deals with the United States and other Western countries. These treaties, known as the Unequal Treaties, forced Japan to open its ports to foreign trade and granted extraterritorial rights to Westerners. These deals let foreigners into Japan's ports and changed everything. The influx of foreign goods, ideas, and people began to transform Japanese society in ways that were both exciting and unsettling. Japan's quiet time was over and big changes were coming. The once isolated nation was now thrust into the global arena, and it had to adapt quickly to survive. The old social rules started to disappear as new ideas came to Japan. Western technology, fashion, and even political concepts began to influence Japanese life. People started to question the shogun. The authority of the shogunate was increasingly challenged as more Japanese began to see the need for modernization and reform. They thought Japan needed to become modern and stronger to compete with the West. The realization that Japan could no longer remain isolated and must embrace change was a driving force behind the push for modernization. This led to a movement called the Meiji Restoration. The goal was to restore the emperor to power and to transform Japan into a modern state capable of standing toe-to-toe with Western powers. In 1868, young samurai warriors took control and put Emperor Meiji in charge. This marked the beginning of a new era in Japanese history, one characterized by rapid modernization and industrialization. The Meiji Restoration was a huge change. It dismantled the old feudal system and laid the foundation for a centralized government, which was essential for Japan's modernization efforts. The new government wanted to make Japan modern and industrial like the West. They implemented sweeping reforms in education, military and industry to achieve this goal. They didn't want to be controlled by other countries. The fear of colonization and the desire for national sovereignty drove Japan's leaders to push for rapid modernization. This fast change was difficult for the Japanese people. The transition from a traditional agrarian society to a modern industrial one was not easy and caused significant social upheaval. Old ways clashed with new ways. Traditional customs and practices were often at odds with the new Western-influenced ways of life. The government made people work hard and didn't allow anyone to disagree with them. The drive for modernization was relentless, and dissent was not tolerated. But Japan changed from an old-fashioned country to a modern one very quickly, which was amazing. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous, turning Japan into a formidable global power in just a few decades. The Meiji Restoration in 1868 started a new time for Japan. This period marked the end of the Tokugawa shogunate and the beginning of a new era under Emperor Meiji. It was a time when Japan decided to transform itself from a feudal society into a modern state. It was a time of change, building, and a new sense of being Japanese. The country was eager to catch up with the Western powers and avoid the fate of other Asian nations that had been colonized. This urgency drove the Japanese government to implement sweeping reforms. Emperor Meiji's government made big changes to make Japan a modern country that could compete with the West. They adopted Western political, military, and technological advancements which were seen as essential for Japan's survival and prosperity. These changes affected everything in Japan, from schools and government to factories and the army. The government restructured the political system, creating a centralized state with a constitution and a parliamentary system. The Meiji government wanted good schools. They believed that education was the foundation of a strong nation. They knew education was important, so they made all children go to elementary school. This was a significant shift from the previous system, where education was primarily for the samurai class. Japanese students went to Western countries to learn about science, technology, and culture and brought these new ideas back to Japan. This exchange of knowledge was crucial for Japan's modernization efforts. The government also built universities and technical schools to train future leaders. These institutions became the breeding grounds for the next generation of Japanese innovators and leaders. Building factories was also important. The government recognized that industrialization was key to economic growth and national strength. The government helped businesses build shipyards, mines, and steel mills. These industries formed the backbone of Japan's new economy. Japan started making lots of things, and factories appeared everywhere. This industrial boom not only boosted the economy, but also created jobs and improved living standards for many Japanese people. This made Japan a rich country later on. The economic growth during the Meiji period laid the foundation for Japan's emergence as a global power in the 20th century. The government also wanted a strong army. They understood that military strength was essential for protecting the nation and asserting its interests abroad. They knew that Western countries could be dangerous, so they wanted to be able to protect Japan. The army was modernized with new weapons and training methods modeled after Western military practices. The army got new weapons and training, and all men had to join the army. This conscription system ensured that Japan had a large and well-trained military force. This would cause problems later as Japan started to take over other lands. The military's growing power and ambition led to conflicts and territorial expansion, which had long-term consequences for Japan and its neighbors. The Meiji Restoration changed Japan completely. In just a few decades, Japan transformed from a secluded feudal society into a modern, industrialized nation. In a short time, Japan became a modern country. The rapid modernization brought about significant social, economic, and political changes. But these changes were difficult. The transition was not smooth, and many people struggled to adapt to the new ways of life. Old ways were challenged. Some people were treated unfairly, and the changes led to future wars. The Meiji Restoration set the stage for Japan's future, with all its successes and challenges.